Good morning, great morning, wonderful morning, spectacular morning, outstanding morning, magnificent morning, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious morning. Oh, yes. Again, the beautiful reminder of choice that you have, that I have, that we all have. And what is that choice? The choice of thought, to accept, to reject ideas, to originate ideas. See, that is your most powerful power. And if you use it, you can deliver incredible changes in your life. There's this phrase that I frequently say, which you've heard me say many, many times, and that is, I can think what I please. If to think is to form, I can form what I please. See, you can think what you please. If to think is to form, you can form what you please. And what can you form? You can form whatever outcomes you desire. But see, this is where you locking into the idea comes into play. And see, most people, they don't do that. Most people are a slave to their imaginings instead of a master of their imagination. And that's what we're inviting you to step into. We're inviting you to step into this power you have in you, this hidden power, is what Thomas Troward shares, to change the trajectory of your life. And the way that that will happen for you in your life is by you choosing the right thoughts. Okay, it's very, very simple. And again, it will deliver beautiful change in your outer world. But again, only if you use what we're sharing with you. Now, that brings up another reminder, a beautiful little tidbit that has unfortunately happened because of the personal development world. The personal development world has created a culture of information gatherers. And maybe that's been you, where you've gone to seminars, you've gone to, you know, webinars, you've gone to courses, you've read a lot of books, but then for some reason the results aren't changing. Well, the reason why is because you've collected the information. It's just sitting there. It's like on a shelf. Yeah, you know it, but it hasn't been used. And again, that is where it's at. You must apply the information. See, that's one of the beautiful lessons that we put in our program Emergence. Matter of fact, it's the first lesson, the golden rule of application. If you don't apply what you know, you will not deliver the change. Now, what have we been studying? We've been studying this beautiful gem here. There is no such thing as self-sabotage. And if you don't have a copy of this book, get a copy of it. And then when you do get it, don't read it. Study and apply it. This book right here is incredible. It's what we wish was told to us. And this book obliterates, decimates, completely destroys the idea that you're stopping you, that you're in your own way, that you're your own worst enemy, and that you're self-sabotaging, which is BS. Yeah, it's bullshit, but it's also belief system. With that, though, when you dive into this and you start to think this way, you see the truth of you. And that is freaking great. Now, make sure that you have your goal card with you. This beautiful idea. If you don't have a goal card with you, get an index card or something and write down your goal and use what we're sharing with you to connect with this goal. Now, something I have to remind you of, we don't manifest what we write on a goal card. We don't manifest what we put on a vision board. We don't even manifest affirmations. What we manifest is how we feel about them. And that's another beautiful truth. Write that in your notes. What I manifest is what I'm feeling. And it's true. If the feeling you have about this is something that's intellectual, that's something that's just an idea that's floating around, I got news for you. It's going to stay that way. But if you're connected with it, you think from it, ooh, get ready because it'll start to take shape in your outer world. All right. So, are you ready to dive into this? Let's go to where we are, shall we? Let's go into where we are in this beautiful gem. Here we go. Boom. All right. Now, the page that we're on is page 58, and we talked about this before, but we're going to talk about it again. The chapter here is on reason. Remember, you have 6 higher mental faculties: imagination, perception, reason, will, memory, intuition. This is about reason. This is about thinking. And there is an art to thinking. Now, here, there's a beautiful statement. If you think from what you can see, you will remain bound by what already exists. Now let's just sit in that for just a moment. If you only think from what you can see, now what you can see is not just your eyes. What you can see has to do with what's in your mind in the form of an image, which can be a sound, it can be precedent, it can be, again, your results. The whole point being, it's something that has already been done in the world in the form of an outcome. Now, if you only think from that, which is the appearance, because that's what it's talking about, okay? If you think from the appearance, you're going to remain bound by that. Why? Because that's what you're giving attention to. Let's just give an example about this, okay? Most people, for instance, they have this habit of talking about their problems. Maybe you've run across this with people. You hear it in conversation. They talk about the problem. They talk about the problem, thinking that it's going to help the problem go away. But I feel better when I talk about the problem. No, they get it out of the system. But what they don't understand is happening is a reinforcement of the very pattern that's causing the problem. Whatever you give attention to, you get more of multiplied. Now, again, really grab onto what I'm saying here. See, that's the appearance. Maybe there's a precedent in your life, a result that's been reoccurring, and you keep looking at that and keep giving attention to that. Maybe you say something like this, why do I keep letting that happen? Which is not true. Remember, the only thing you let in is light. If you keep on moving with negative physical actions, it's because of negative physical conditioning in your mind. In other words, you see yourself doing those physical things subconsciously. All negativity is subconscious. Now, with that being said, if that's what you are seeing, if that's what is the appearance in your life, and that's what you're giving life to, that's what's going to continue in your life. This is why it's so important for you to not use what Jim Rohn refers to as the language of the poor, because many people, when they operate from what they see, the appearance of what's happening in their life, of there's not enough money, they're not earning enough, and they speak with the language of I can't afford it, it costs too much, it's not in my budget. I got news for you. That's going to continue in your life. So you have to accept prosperity. You have to accept abundance. You have to accept that it's in your life, not what's in the appearance. Now, if you don't want to be bound by the outcomes that have been there in your life, first recognize that you don't have to consent to it. Write that in your notes and type it in the comments. I don't have to consent to things as they are. You can imagine something else. Now, we actually talked about that beautifully in the chapter of imagination. You must imagine great things for yourself and be loyal to that idea, not loyal to what's happening in your life. Now, but if you think beyond appearances, to use reason to challenge your conditions rather than be defined by them, everything changes. Now, this comes from The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Chapter 4, one of my favorite chapters in that book, and it ties to the will with reason. And what does he say? You've heard me say this many times before. He says, there's nothing that shrinks the minds of more men and women than that of sustaining consecutive thought. It's the hardest work in the world, especially when truth, in other words, what you would love for your life, is contrary to appearances, is contrary to what you see. It takes power to think truth, to think about how you would love things to be when the appearance says otherwise, when your bank account says this, when your results say that, when how you have been feeling says that. It takes power to think of health when you're in the appearance of sickness, when you have a fever, when you're not feeling good, when you're achy. See, that's the appearance. That's what you're seeing. It takes power to think health. With that being said, there is a beautiful truth in the Bible that says, let the weak man say I'm strong. See, that ties to this. Now, with that being said, though, when you are able to think truth regardless of the appearance, to hold on the screen of your mind how you would love things to be regardless of what's happening, you have power. You can get what you want. You can get that outcome. But it takes discipline to do that. Now, before we go further, for those of you who are watching this live stream, not here in the group call and would love to watch the rest of these calls and have access to the replays, go to elevitality.com and register for Master Your Mind. You will thank